was a kid, there was a place. They closed it down and let it rot. But the things that lived there...
Hello, Daddy.
they come back.
There is a great scene where Dan kind of possesses Abra.
That is one of my favorite scenes. That was so much fun.
Yeah?
So much fun.
What was it kind of like channeling Ewan McGregor?
Oh, definitely. It was so much fun. I watched Mr. Ewan first, kind of mirrored him, and then when Abra's possessed, just pretended to be Mr. Ewan. It was fun.
The scene with the baseball boy is so gut-wrenching to watch, and just the fact that it's Jacob Tremblay adds so much more to it. I'm just curious about kind of that experience filming that sequence.
I think for me it was quite a shock because someone had said to me previously, because I have a 12-year-old son, will this affect you? You know, will you go into your headset that it's your child? And I thought, no, because I get paid to act and that's what I do. You know, I separate them two. One is called reality, one is non. A little bit cocky. And then action happens and the actor I'm working against kicks into action and I'm so mesmerized by the sound, the guttural, wrenching kind of animal sounds that I just freeze and tears are pouring down my face and I realize that I will ruin the scene because it's a two-shot. So I am wiping tears, slapping myself and waiting for my cue of desperation. And then I walked up to the person and I said, please ask your question again. I did a Notting Hill.
There you go. You worked with Jacob Tremblay before on Before I Wake, but just having him there, just like, it hurts your soul to watch him in this much pain. I'm curious just about kind of your approach to that scene and also just kind of metering how much you wanted to actually show.
My approach was to get out of Jacob's way. You know, I having worked with him before, I know a little bit about what Jacob is capable of, but I'm always surprised because, you know, I thought I knew what he could do, and then I saw Room, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I didn't know him at all. Jacob did that himself. He prepared that performance away from us before he reported to set. He showed up and he said, I've got this. I know what I'm gonna do, so. Okay, and he kind of sweetly and quietly got into position, and
I heard it was his birthday too.
It was his birthday.
Yeah.
It was his 12th birthday. This is the second time I've had this weird experience. I have gotten to sing Happy Birthday to Jacob Tremblay twice in his life on my set.
Nice.
Which is, yeah, he turned 7 while we were shooting Before I Wake. He turned 12 while we were shooting this. So twice I've had to go get a cake for Jacob, which is great. I mean, what an honor. But yeah, he just did it. And none of us knew how to react. The True Knot was traumatized. Like Rebecca and all these like big swaggery monsters were just destroyed. Zahn McClarnon had to leave. He was crying at the end of it. It was silent as a funeral when we called cut. And Jacob just hops up, high fives his dad, you know, covered with blood, grinning ear to ear. His dad is smirking because he knew what was gonna happen and he knew what we were gonna see. And he went off to craft service and got a snack. Beautiful. And the rest of us had to kind of like soak in this horrible, like it was one. And I looked at Trevor at that point and I was like, we are screwed. Like we can't show this. Yeah. And we only showed a small fraction of his performance. I mean, it's too much.
It's a lot.
I went to watch the scene before we started shooting Abra's vision, and it was really disturbing. Me and Abra's parents, Miss Jocelyn and Mr. David, we saw it and super disturbed. I went off on my own for a little bit, and kind of let that soak in, dove really into Abra, and then when we started shooting, it just went on. Yeah. Just flowed. But it was hard on my throat. But that's okay, because I drink tea.
Did you have to do a lot of takes of it, or?
Not really. I think it was more the different angles that we had to do a lot of, but sometimes it was just Abra sitting up, so it wasn't too much screaming.
I'm wondering if you have something against hands just between Gerald's game and Oculus and this. Like, it's a lot. Oh, but I'm curious if kind of like the reason why we kind of see Rose's pain is because, you know, she's a monster and we're kind of enjoying that for a little bit.
Well, that's the thing about that Jacob scene is without that, for the rest of the film, every time someone in the True Knot gets hurt, you love it, you know, and you need that. But yeah, you know, hands, you know, fuck hands. It was never an intentional thing that all of my movies had to mangle someone's hand, but it really has kind of accidentally gone that way, and I'm just gonna lean into it. Sure. And Now we're just going to do it, whether we need to or not. But yeah, I mean, what have hands ever done for anyone?
They're terrible. Yeah,
except everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and another thing, I mean, obviously you talked about the pain of the true knot, but what's interesting about this, as far as an adaptation from the book, is also by the end of the story, Teen Dan is not strong. You kill Abra's dad, you kill Billy. I mean, and Dr. John isn't even actually really as much part of a story.
Right.
I feel like it does a lot for the stakes, and I'm assuming, is that fair to say that that's
pretty much what
it's
about? And I had wanted it to be that the true knot, in the book, it's like, yes, they horribly killed that kid, but then they were leaving all these adults alive. I think at one point in the book, they actually drug Billy and just left him there.
Right.
I was like, why didn't they kill him? It makes them much more formidable. But the other thing is to eliminate support, and especially in the extended metaphor of recovery and sobriety. This is something that can't be achieved without support. AA at its heart is about support and is about having allies in this struggle. So to really kind of have Danny be the hero that I wanted him to be, and Abra too, we needed to knock down those support structures so that these characters would have nothing to rely on but themselves and each other at the end, and that was very important, because we did the same to Rose. We were cutting away all of her support. If we could get just the three of them, they're the heart of the film. Absolutely. Just the three of them alone together is where the movie wanted to go.
These people, they hurt people like us.
To touch on the ending, I mean, I think Stephen King fans everywhere are going to just love the hell out of the end of this film, because the fate of the Overlook is perfect. It's exactly kind of what you need to kind of bookend from what Stanley Kubrick didn't do.
Yeah.
Is that something that was kind of from the first draft? And also, did Danny always die?
For me, he did.
Okay.
And it was in the first draft. The idea was that if we were going back to the Overlook, if we were opening that book again, this was a kind of once in a lifetime opportunity to try to give Stephen King and fans of Stephen King like me the ending to The Shining that they never got. And to take Jack's ending and give it to Dan felt really appropriate. And that meant, I think this truly is passing the baton. And in that equation, this is about giving the world to Abra, which I didn't think could really happen. In the same way that, we were leaning into the sacrificial end of Dick Halloran that Kubrick had created. I felt like Ka is a wheel, then we have to leave Dan very much the same way.